Welcome back to the Modern Ham, where we are connected in new old ways. Today we're going to be talking about setting up your own APRS client using Direwolf to use with Windows. Next week is going to be Linux, so stay tuned. Alright, so if you're unfamiliar with what's going on here, we are doing a packet radio class, or a set of lessons and videos that can encompass everything about that I know about packet radio, all into one consolidated place with modern references, modern setup, and modern documentation. If you guys have not seen the introductory video, basically the timeline looks about like this. So that means that we are past the Direwolf configuration. I did that last week. If you guys missed that, be sure to check out the link that's in the description on setting up your own Direwolf TNC, and that will let you kind of play with what we're going to do today. Now, if you have your own TNC that is not Direwolf, and you know how to interface with it, then you should be able to follow along with this video just fine. This video will be Pinpoint APRS, and I'll talk about why I chose that in just a moment. Probably tomorrow will be released a yet another APRS client software for Linux, and we're going to follow up APRS with creating your own APRS digipeater and IGate with Direwolf. Really quick, guys, I want to give a quick shout out to James over at QuirkyQRP Ham Radios. His call sign is KH2SR. He sent me some coffee, some ham radio coffee, and he didn't ask me to like show it or try to sell it or anything, but I told him I'd show it on stream because I think it's pretty cool. It's called Linear Amplifier Light Roast. He has it in his Etsy shop. I'll put a link in the description. But if you see me sipping a coffee this stream out of my Nmap Scanning's Not a Crime mug, then you know where to get it. Alright, so over on my blog, I have a post here called Get Started with APRS on Windows with Pinpoint. And guess what this video is about? Same thing, right? So I do the blogs, that way I have a text medium to follow to kind of keep things structured for myself, and also so that other people can use it as a reference for commands or some of the other things they might miss in the videos. Some people just prefer that. So getting started, a prerequisite is, of course, that you have a working Direwolf set up with your radio, unless you're using some other TNC, in which that case I'm probably not going to be able to help with. But if you guys don't have Direwolf working with your radio yet, make sure you check out the other link, Ultimate Direwolf TNC Installation Guide, where I take you through all of the installation that you probably need to set up Direwolf with your radio. That being said, we're going to move on, and today we are setting up an APRS client. So the automatic packet resource system is it's kind of a protocol built on top of AX25, or uses AX25 to transport regular position reports over amateur radio. And not only does it carry position reports, but you can actually do messaging. And it is the most popular form of packet radio that we know today. So naturally, I'm going to start out with that this week. Direwolf is our interface for the radio to allow us to communicate. Pinpoint is going to be the software that lets us visualize what we're seeing over the radio, and also give us a GUI interface so that we can easily send messages and position reports and see things visually, right? So we're going to go over a couple of vocabulary that we're going to see this week as well. APRS-IS, which is the APRS Information System. So the APRS-IS, this kind of encompasses a online system of routing for APRS packets over an IP network. There is an entire system that we can send packets to over the internet and have them route between nodes, which are internet connected APRS stations, to allow us to do things like send messages across the earth from RF to the internet, and then from internet to RF on the other side. So it just kind of gives us another gateway to send that APRS traffic over a internet backbone. And IGate is one of those connected stations that can listen on RF and take whatever packets they hear over RF and send them to the APRS-IS. So that's all an IGate is. Technically, it listens, and it can also send that information forward to the information system. It looks like I have digipeater path. Oh, I should probably zoom in, right? It might help. Digipeater or path. A digipeater is much like a voice repeater. Usually you'll have an IGate and you'll have a digipeater set up in one station. They usually go hand in hand, but not always. But in digipeater basically just listens for RF packets, and once it receives them, it repeats them. And there's a little bit more advanced than that because you have something called a path. And a path is a part of an APRS packet that gives instructions to these digipeters on how often, or sorry, how many times they would like to be repeated, or if they would like to be repeated at all. In the blog, I break down some of these numbers. I don't want to do that over video because I don't want this video to be too terribly long. But if you want to read up on it, you can check out the link in the description that takes you to this page, and you can learn about the different paths in APRS. But for now, we're going to use a pretty generic path, and that is going to be a wide 2-1, an SSID. So oftentimes we can actually have multiple APRS stations with the same call sign. And that can be problematic because it can get confusing for other operators or the information system to detect where you truly are. So to do that, we have a suffix that's added at the end. It's usually a hyphen and a number. And these usually go from like 0 to 15 and mean different things. So if you're interested, KB9VBR, he's also another YouTuber, kind of breaks down some of these suffixes here on his blog. -5 for smartphone users, -7 for handhelds, -10 for IGates or internet operation. So you can kind of look at that and determine what kind of station you are. Now, you're not going to get arrested if you use the wrong one, so it's not too terribly bad, but it does let other operators that know about this system, know what kind of station you are. And because we're going to be an internet-connected station today, we're going to use -10, and that's often what digipeters use as well. So another part of the APRS packet is the overlay symbol. And the overlay symbol is just a visual symbol that's shown on other people's clients. Usually, it comes in a symbol code, and your specific client can have a different image for that code than others. There is a standard that should be followed, and you can see the standard here that has kind of like a description of some of the symbols that might be involved, but your APRS client software will probably have you a nice drop down where you can select the image that best fits what type of station you're operating. A beacon, if you're unfamiliar, this is kind of a regularly transmitted APRS packet. Usually it's to update your position occasionally. It can be done with like a regular interval, like every 1 minute you want to transmit a beacon, or it can have a technology used called smart beaconing, which seems to be trademarked by the HamHUD. I'm not sure what that name is. It's trademarked technology, I guess, but it uses your speed and how fast you turn and some other variables to determine how often to beacon. For example, if you're moving 2 miles per hour, you don't need to beacon as much as if you're moving 70 miles per hour. So if you see that term used in maybe your radio, just know that that's what that does. It takes you from a static beacon interval to a more dynamic one based on what you're doing. That kind of brings us to the main event today, which is going to be installing Pinpoint APRS. Now, there are several APRS clients for Windows. I've tried basically all of them, and I might start a holy war, I don't know, but Pinpoint APRS is the one that I find the most fitting for the modern ham YouTube channel, as it's still being maintained today, and it has a very modern UI and functionality that it's being updated with all the new things that are coming in APRS. So I recommend you download this, and that's what we're going to use for the video today. So you'll follow the download link at pinpointaprs.com, and we're going to use this big blue download button, and we're going to download the latest build. And this is just going to install a executable or download one, and we're just going to click and run it. This is your any old download installer. You just hit next, 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 install, and voila. So the first time you open Pinpoint, and we're just going to do that, it might have made an icon on your desktop, but I'm going to type in Pinpoint, and you should have a new shortcut to open. And the first time you open it, it's going to have this accept or decline, and it's going to open up a kind of like a first configuration menu, right? And we're going to go over all of these. So the first thing here, obviously your call sign plus your SSID. We talked about that. That's that dash number. We're actually going to function as just a handheld station today. Why not? We're going to use -7. So I'm going to say KN4 MKB dash. Now let's not do handheld. Let's take a look and see the list. Just for practice here, we're going to look at this list. And if you can also Google APRS SSID list. Let's see what we would fit in here. You know, if we go by KB9 VBR, he doesn't use an SSID for his home station, which is actually kind of unique. I'm going to go ahead, and like I said, you're not going to get arrested if you use the wrong one. I'm going to use -7, like a handheld. That's typically just what I'm used to. So as for the path, you know, I kind of broke this down, what you should use here, but for the purpose of this video, I recommend everybody just use a wide 1-1, wide 2-1. That will get you most places. Now, I go into a little bit why 2-1 is actually a good idea here, but if you ever want to type in your own path, never do something like 3-3. The APRS network is actually pretty sensitive when it comes to repeating packets, right? So imagine you have a few digipeters in your area and you put in a wide 3-3. This can actually get you to repeat your packet across the entire country if you have enough digipeters in place around your area to get you out. And that's just because your packet will just keep getting propagated, and with enough of those paths, if they're distributed the right way, you can really congest the APRS network. So for the sake of this, please just go with wide 1-1, 2-1, and dig into that later if you want to get more advanced. So we also are allowed something called a position comment, which is transmitted with every beacon. And this could just tell us a little bit about our station. It could tell us a little bit about who we are. I'm going to say KN or MKB packet radio. That's all I'm going to put. And the status icon, this is actually the overlay symbol that we just talked about. If I can find one that's a house, that's pretty fitting for what I am doing here today. Some systems are better, you know, have a better selection than others. This is kind of annoying where we have to flip through, you know, individually. But there should be a house symbol in here that's not too strange. So /Y, you can put that in, and that can be your little house overlay. Or you could be a car or whatever. You could be a dog if your APRS tracker's on your dog. We're using Direwolf, and we're going to be using Direwolf as a KISS TNC. So we're not actually able to enable the digipeater. Don't worry, we'll do that later in the week. The next thing we're going to take a look at is this enable APRS beaconing. Right now it's every 30 minutes, but I'm going to change that for now to, let's do every 5 minutes. That's just for the video itself. And I'm going to go ahead and say beacon my altitude and beacon my course and speed, even though I'm not going anywhere. So next we're going to flip over to the TNC tab. Now the TNC type, if you guys are following along with this series, we're going to go with network KISS mode. Direwolf has a port exposed, and it's a KISS port that allows us to connect to it with any network as long as we can reach it. So it's in I'm running Direwolf actually on this radio here, or sorry, this radio here is connected to a server that is running Direwolf. You guys are probably running Direwolf on the same computer that you're doing your Pinpoint on. So down here, you can basically leave this as default if you're running Direwolf on your same computer. Now say you have a Raspberry Pi and it's connected and it's doing Direwolf connected to a radio somewhere else in the house. Here you want to put in the IP address of your Direwolf Raspberry Pi or whatever you're running it on. So in my case, I'm going to put in 10.10.20.81, which is where my Direwolf is running. If you guys don't know, actually it's not running at all yet. Start up your Direwolf. You should know how to do that from the Ultimate Direwolf Guide. You should have it working. This right here is just that remote server I'm in. I've started Direwolf. So I'm going to put that over here. So anyway, I have Direwolf running. That's the purpose. So we're going to go back to Pinpoint. Make sure you put in your IP of Direwolf. If it's running on the same machine, leave it as 127.0.0.1. I'm also going to say connect automatically when TNC, when Pinpoint starts. Over on the APRS IS tab, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enable RF2 information system when connected to the APRS IS. And that's going to actually allow us to function as an IGate. So see right here, it says APRS IS passcode. Many people get this confused with a password, and that's not the case. So in order to send information to the APRS IS, you need a passcode. And this passcode is by no means a secret. It's not a password. It's actually an open source website that generates it. I'll provide a link to one of them here. It's apps.magicbug.co.uk/passcode. You type in your call sign, right? And you guys are going to see mine on the screen. I don't care because you could type in anybody's call sign and see it, right? That's not its purpose. So I'm going to go back over here, and in the passcode, I'm going to put that passcode. It needs to be generated from, it's generated from your call sign. This passcode, it's not meant for security. It's meant to keep the bots out of the APRS IS. If you've ever hosted a server online, things constantly just send you random spam and garbage in an attempt to try to get in or break something. They're not human. It's just thousands and thousands of bots. Well, 99% of these bots are not going to go generate a passcode to get into the network to do weird things, right? So that's what that's there for. So once you have that, we're basically set up to use Pinpoint. So you're going to hit OK, and it's going to start. And you're going to have a few windows that open. The very first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're connected to Direwolf. So take a look at this. You should see this. I'm getting all kinds of crazy stuff already. Look. So you should see this ready to accept KISS application 1 on port. That means if you saw this right here, it means your application connected. You should also see you have a position here. And right now it's put me in Denver, Colorado, which obviously isn't correct, right? So we need to actually move ourselves around. So to manually place your station, you need to find your location on the map and then shift left click it and press set as my position. So I'm going to find where I am, which is over here where this digipeater was actually detected or close by. And I'm in Elizabethtown, right? So I'm going to find my house and I'm going to shift left click, just like I said in the blog. And I'm going to hit set as my position. And if you don't have a GPS, that works. So now, at least when I beacon, I'm going to be beaconing my real position. Now, here's a couple things about Pinpoint. The map, you can control over here with the map thing. Tools is where most of what you're going to be doing is. So if you check to connect to your TNC automatically, your Direwolf should be connected by now. But if you don't see that, you can actually go into Tools and hit Connect TNC. From Tools, you can also do something called a position beacon. So I'm going to put Direwolf over here so you guys can actually see it while I do some of this work. And I'm going to say send position beacon. Now, if everything goes right, which it looks that it did, I saw my radio transmit, it keyed up. Direwolf had my purple. Remember we talked about that means transmitting. And we sent a position beacon. So as annoying as it might be, I'll send another so you can see it. So I'm sending with low power too. So ordinarily you'd probably see something back from a digipeater if there was one around. But on top of that, you can also send a message. So remember how we said APRS has messaging? Well, you can actually use this to send email or a message to another operator. And I'm just going to send this to myself. I don't really know how that's going to work, but I'm going to say test message, right? And I'm going to hit send. And you can see right here in Direwolf, there's our message. I'm not getting out anywhere. I could probably turn up my power, but I might mess up my camera as it's filming, so I'm not going to do that. But that's how you send a message. You can also see this button here is Connect APRS IS. As long as you configured passcode, you can hit Connect APRS IS. And now, whatever you hear is getting forwarded to the information system. So you're acting, you're serving as an IGate for your local area, which is nice if they don't have one. But you may also start seeing information from the information system come back to you to populate on your map from the internet. let's see. I'm going to take a look at that just to see. So we're going to, for within 25 miles, if anything comes from the APRS IS, within 25 miles is reported there, we'll actually see it in Pinpoint too. So very cool stuff. This right here is a station I actually heard over RF. And this right here is a station it looks to be heard over the information system. So if you pull up one of our other windows here, not the GPS, the last heard window, this is where all of our information for Pinpoint lives. So you can expand these, and we have 2 position reports, right? And we can see all of the information that's in there, where they came from, you know, all the information they decide to put in those APRS packets we can see. Weather reports, this is a miscellaneous report. You'll see some weird data sometimes. Like some people use APRS for some strange things. It's kind of cool to monitor because you never know what's going to pop up. So here, this APRS IS report, that is that packet that actually came from the information system from K7EK-Delta. He is running, it looks like a -D. I don't know, it might be a digipeater or something up there. I think that's non-standard, but it's not illegal, right? We're just doing a thing. So we just had another station pop up. If you guys hear those sounds, that's actually APRS, or sorry, Pinpoint. You can actually go to Tools and hit Mute Sounds, which I recommend if you're in an area like I am. It can get kind of crazy. So on top of that, you know, we see these position reports. Here's your messages, so you can see your sent items. You can see your inbox. And on top of that, that's basically the gist of Pinpoint. So there's a little bit more advanced things that you can do with Pinpoint. For example, you can actually, if you zoom around and you build this map, which is pulling, I think, from Google Maps, if I'm not mistaken, it downloads all of this information offline, and you can actually take somebody's offline cache. If you guys like travel somewhere and you don't have internet access, if somebody's loaded all this on their system, you can hit File, Import Map Cache, and you can import that GMDB file that it should create in their app data. So you can actually export that map data to somebody else offline, which is pretty handy. But for the most part, that is the gist of it. You now have a functioning APRS client, so you can take this, drag around the map, say, you know, you want to send this guy a message, you can just hit send message, right? If I want to send this guy right here a message, I can track him. So if I hit tracking, it should center the map on him, I think. But oh yeah, center map. So you can have a visual way to see all these APRS stations. You can send them messages. You can send their RF information to the APRS IS. You can use the APRS IS to send information, and you can use it to send messages over RF too, as we've seen in Direwolf. So this is basically a fully functioning APRS solution on Windows. So that's basically the gist of getting Pinpoint APRS working on Windows. I think honorable mentions is also my secondary choice would have been APRS 32, APRS 32, but it really hasn't had a true update besides like a little hot fix maybe in 10 years, I think. It's okay, but you guys can explore now your own APRS software, and connecting to it's going to be basically the same, right? You just open it up, you want your TNC to connect. In this case, I really recommend Direwolf. And as long as you get that network IP for Direwolf, for me it was a different IP, but for you guys it's probably going to be 127.0.0.1. You can get all this interface together, and you can start sending your own APRS messages. You can have your own IGate. You can have this running 24/7, whatever you want, and it be beaconing out your position as well. And that's pretty much the gist of it. So upcoming for APRS is we're going to do basically the same thing we did today with another software that's actually multi-platform called Yet Another APRS Client, and that's going to be for the Linux users. This Yet Another APRS Client is not as smooth as Pinpoint, but it's had a recent update. It works on several platforms, and I think it's going to be a good option for Linux users. To top off the week, at the very end of the week, we're going to be setting up our own APRS, IGate, and Digipeater, which all of the hard stuff is actually all out of the way with Direwolf. If you guys are curious on that, you can check out my blog. I've already documented, like I said, I go ahead of time. I've already documented all of the steps that you would need to do such a thing if you want to get ahead of the curve. Otherwise, there's going to be a video out in a few days. Upcoming, just to let you guys know, it's still in the works. I know a lot of you are here for bulletin board systems. That's where a lot of the lost art is. And you'll be glad to know that I've already went through BBQ32, which would probably work on its Linux version mostly as well. And we've already done all the configuration. Everything's documented out to create your own bulletin board system. We'll be doing a video on that next week, or it'll be published next week. And because I'm tackling Windows and Linux, that'll be the Windows version. We're also going to set up another bulletin board system known as JNOS. JNOS is going to be running on Linux, and it is just another bulletin board system. That way we have a little diversity, and I can kind of preserve a guide on installing that as well, because this is supposed to be, I'm trying to be diverse here, right? So next week we're going to set up 2 of those bulletin board systems, and then I'm also going to show you how to connect to them with Windows and Linux, and we'll go from there, right? So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions about APRS or APRS on Windows, APRS on Linux, well, save that for the Linux video. But if you guys have any questions about what you've seen here today, something's not quite working out for you, be sure to let me know down in the comments. I don't want to leave anybody behind. And I also want to go ahead and say I appreciate everybody for all of the support. You guys are great. There was a ton of people that were really into this whole packet radio reintroduction thing, and I didn't realize that there was so much of a need for it. So I'm going to make sure that I do the best that I can to preserve this knowledge and to make sure that it's presentable in a way that people can follow all in one place. With that said, I do want to give a shout out to my YouTube members, just like I, well, mostly do. I should do more often. But I've got a couple new members since I started this series, so you guys, thank you for being here. Bart Killam, Van Flick, Google Must Die, Hanil Vanderwalt, Scott Pasternak, I still hope I'm pronouncing your name right, and our 2 new members, which are going to be Lionel, KJ7OFH, and SMD, Johnny E. Bates. Thank you for being a member, all members of the channel, and I hope to see you guys once we either do Linux or do our APRS, Digipeating, and IGate in a few days. 73 to you.